Love and marriage, they go together like a horse and carriage. This I'll tell you, brother, you can't have one without the other.
So we've gone from love and marriage to bugs and disparage in one generation. And you wonder why the children won't get married or have children. I mean, you can listen to the popular culture and see what has happened to America, what is emphasized. It's not having a family. Families used to be glorified in America. I remember in the 50s, there were shows such as, I can't even go into them, who remembers them, but you're talking about a half a century ago. It was a different world, I understand that. The world changes, nothing stays the same. Delta is the symbol of change, and nothing stays the same. I respect that. I'm not trying to keep the world the way it was. On the other hand, in my mind, there are certain principles or values that are worth sustaining. And obviously I am right, because if I were wrong, we wouldn't be facing the dilemma of a nation that is literally, demographically, disappearing in front of your eyes. So if you listen to the illegitimize glorifying their liberalism, liberalism teaches you don't get married. Liberalism teaches you if it feels good, do it. Liberalism teaches you don't have families, don't go to church. Everything that is negative, everything that is anti-life is a part of the structure of liberalism. Don't you understand that? And that's why I say liberalism is a mental disorder. I don't have an inherent dislike for liberals just because there's no reason for it. It's just I've grown up and I understand what these people stand for and where they brought us and where it goes unless the arc is stopped. John in New York on WOR, your opinion. Go ahead, please. You're on the Savage Nation.
How you doing, Michael? Love your show. Michael, I'm a 40-year-old man in Brooklyn, and I've seen this the last 15, 20, 30 years in Alabama, Texas, California, and here in New York. Kids my age, 35, 40, 25-year-old kids, are scared of population for one thing. Number two...
I'm sorry, say that again, John. They're scared of what?
The population boom. In their eyes, the world is too big, too populated.
Oh, they were brainwashed by the communist left in the population bomb lie of Paul Ehrlich, the liar. Yes, that was the same lie that spread like a virus in the 1970s, on the same level of pseudoscience that Al Gore is spreading the global warming hysteria right now.
I bought that probably 15 years ago somewhat. I didn't buy the whole thing, but I kind of went along with it now.
How come the Muslims didn't buy into Paul Ehrlich's theory of the population bomb?
Exactly. But, Michael, here's the thing, Michael, and I'm convinced of this. It is not hip. It is not cool to have kids. I've seen this everywhere. I have 40-plus friends that are white, that are my age, that haven't had kids, that don't want kids, and will not have kids. And it's everywhere. It's invisible.
But, John, you know what it is with guys? It's mainly narcissism, where they're in love with themselves. They look at themselves like they're little demigods. They don't want the mess of a family. They don't want to give up a dime, to raise a kid. In essence, selfishness is what you could say it is. I mean, you could put it into deeper psychological territory, but it comes down to selfishness, doesn't it?
Yeah, probably, but to them it's not hip or cool to have kids. It's fascinating.
In other words, if a guy walked down the street in Brooklyn with a kid, he'd be seen as a schmuck, not as a hero.
Well, though, because a lot of 40-year-olds my age, and where I live, Prospect Heights, Brooklyn, do have kids. And people go, wow, he's got a kid, that's pretty cool. But if you had 3 or 4 kids, how does he do it? Man, look at that.
But, John, how about some of the pretty girls who walk around Brooklyn or New York with dogs now instead of children? When I was a youngster, I would see women in the streets comparing their babies with each other in strollers. Now I see girls, pretty girls, holding a dog, and I'm a dog lover, as though it's their baby, and they compare dogs with each other like that's the new generation. So you could say this, the country has gone to the dogs, couldn't you?
Right. There are more puppies in New York City than there are infants from white children.
There you go. That's right. Instead of an infant, they hold a puppy, and they think, look, the girls maybe don't even want to have a baby themselves because they're also narcissistic, and they don't want their bodies to be distorted by childbirth. So, look, let me say this again. I mean, this is a very complicated topic, and it's a very simple topic. You look at the nations and their birth rates, and the lowest of the European nations is Spain and then Greece. Look at these nations that were once phenomenally rich with families and children, and you ask, what happened to the Spanish male? What happened to the Greek male? What happened to the Italian male? What happened to the German male? What happened to the English male? What happened to the American male? Well, there are many answers to the question of why men will not get married, why they won't have children, and one answer is simple. They don't need to get married for sex anymore because the girls have largely become sluts. by and large, the girls have bought into the salacious messages of the feminist and such movements, and they've been brainwashed into saying, well, you're just like a guy. Why should a guy have sex without consequences when you can do it too? You know, if it feels good, do it. It's just like brushing your teeth, etc. I don't have to get more graphic than that. So a lot of girls figure, I'm like a guy, I'll do what I want, go to hell. Now, that's a direct response to the brainwashing of an entire generation in the public schools and from the media. You know that. And as a result, you say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, take a look. You'll see what's wrong with that. The nation is over. That's what's wrong with that. You have any other questions? There's your answer. Take all your genius liberal logic, now apply it to the real world. The real world is it's all over, you schmuck. The country's dying. In 50 years, it won't even be here. Didn't you just listen to the piece I played? So there it is. So what are you going to do about it? You're going to go have children for America? Well, that's an interesting question. There was a time when it was considered patriotic to have large families. There was a time when we had leaders that encouraged families and supported families, but no more. They only encourage immigrants and immigrant families. Notice how they speak so glowingly about the immigrants and their families and family values, and how they spit upon you and your family. Did you notice this? All the so-called church fathers who were so anxious for illegal immigrants to become legalized, how they talk glowingly, how they're all family people. When have you last heard them talk about their original congregants being family people? When have you last heard the church or the synagogue talk about the beauty of family, the sacred nature of motherhood? When have you last heard a word about fatherhood? When have you seen the word fatherhood or motherhood recently? Those are terms that have been expunged from the vernacular by the vermin on the left. And it's all on purpose. Believe me, I've studied these things. You're listening to a genius, Michael Savage. Take it or leave it.
Savage.